So that chorus of boos was Donald Trump being booed out of the room at the World Cup, which means that more and more people are starting to turn on Donald Trump. And folks, that is absolute music to our ears. I enjoyed seeing that so much and listening to that so much. Let's watch it from another angle. Take a look. You know, folks, I'm sure if Donald Trump knew that we were all sharing those clips of him being booed, if we just plastered them all over social media, I'm sure he wouldn't like that very much. So let's be sure and not do that tongue in cheek. But, folks, that was a new level of booing, even for Trump. I mean, I've seen him get booed before, and there's been times where I thought he got booed louder and the media didn't really focus on it. Then there's been other times, in all fairness, where I felt like that there was just a few boos over here in the corner, but people would try to take that and blow it into something else and act like he got booed out of the room. But folks, that was pretty brutal. I mean, that was getting up there with like Ravishing Rick Rude level boos. For another one of my wrestling analogies, you know, there's different levels of boos. And when Rick Rude used to come out and go, "Cut the music," I mean, the crowd would boo him out of the room when he would sit there and take his robe off and swivel his hips. So yeah, Trump is definitely starting to get up there with those Ravishing Rick Rude level boos. And he's also getting trolled by a guy who helped him get back in the White House. Joe Rogan posted this over on his Instagram. I'm going to drain the swamp, and then damn, swamp got hands. So he's basically implying that Donald Trump came in and said, "I'm going to be the one to drain the swamp," and then Donald Trump ended up getting beat up by the swamp. But Joe Rogan is trying desperately now to get that stench off of him, and it's really sad because I'm going to be honest with you. I know I give Joe Rogan a lot of heat here on the channel. Over the last couple of years, I've not had a whole lot of good things to say. But he was a guy who I once listened to. He was a guy who I once thought was reasonable. He was a guy that I've defended in the past. And I do remember a time when Joe Rogan said, "I don't want to help Trump. I'm not going to have him on my show because I don't want to help him." And then turned around and helped him get right back into power. And so now he's trying to wash off that stench as he sees more and more people starting to boo, which again kind of shows that he just sort of goes with the moment. Wherever the crowd is going is kind of where he's going to go. So now he's jumping on the train of trolling Trump. But it's all starting to come unraveled. It's all starting to come unglued. And that is a good thing. It's good to see Trump finally getting these boos that he deserved. And one of the main reasons why I feel that more people are booing now, you got to understand that this entire time we've been trying to point out to them all the giant red flags. They were holding on to hope that when Trump got back in, he would expose the deep state. They were holding on to hope that when he got back in, he would drain the swamp for real this time. And everything we ever pointed out to them, no matter what it was, if we was like, "Hey, did you hear what he said about the troops? Did you hear what he said about prisoners of war? Did you see him mock that disabled reporter? Did you hear what he said about his own daughter? Did you hear him brag about groping women?" No matter what we said, they were always like, "Well, yeah, but hold on, man. He's going to expose the deep state. He's going to drain the swamp. He's going to get them. Just wait, just watch. I promise it's coming." They've been braced for that. Even through January 6th, when we pointed that stuff out, they were like, "Okay, yeah, that got out of hand that day, but just hold on a minute, Brando. Hold on a minute, guys. We're going to prove it. He's going to prove it. He's going to show that we were right." And every video that I made and every video that Midas Touch made, Brian Tyler Cohen, David Packman, Luke Beasley, whoever your favorite is, no matter how many videos we made, no matter how many things we pointed out, they were always there going, "Yeah, but just hold on a minute. Just give Trump a chance. We're going to show you that we're right. We're going to expose the deep state. We're going to show you all those Democrats that are on that list." And then Trump comes out and tells them to be quiet about it. Trump comes out and tries to dupe them into believing that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton cooked it up, and even they won't buy that one because they were waiting on that moment for him to expose the deep state, and now he's not. And that's why you're hearing that chorus of boos, and that's why suddenly Joe Rogan is going, "Shit, maybe I shouldn't have helped him," and is trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube with his audience. But as much as I'm not really a fan of Rogan these days, him posting those kind of things reaches a lot of people. The guy's got a massive platform. So if he begins to troll Trump, the more people starts to troll Trump, the more mainstream that becomes, then the more people are going to boo him. And we need that right now. As much as we've all been through and as much as we've tried so long and so hard to point things out to people. We've waited for this moment, though. We've waited for the moment that they would come unglued and fall apart. And so here I go with a boxing analogy, but when you get someone on the hook, when you catch them clean and you've got them, you better go in and finish the fight off, because if you don't, that person can mount a comeback. And I'm sure Trump is sitting there in his mind trying to cook up a comeback. It's hard to tell him what he's going to do next to try to distract from this. Because you got to remember, when Elon dropped the bomb and said he's in the Epstein files, that's why he won't release it. When Elon said that, what did Trump do? He goes to California, creates a bunch of unnecessary chaos. Then he bombs Iran. He's done everything he could to keep this away, to keep this silent. But you got to stop and say to all the MAGAs out there, you got to say, hey, wait a minute. Epstein was arrested on Trump's watch. He was put in jail on Trump's watch. He died on Trump's watch. And now he's being covered up on Trump's watch. And now, the one moment they were waiting on, while we were pointing out all the red flags and we were trying so hard to wake them up and get their attention, they were holding out for this moment. And now, folks, they're not going to get it. And they're realizing they're not going to get it. So now everything we ever pointed out is just a big egg on their face. Everything we pointed out is just a big, giant plate of crow now that they have to eat and live with. And when I think about Trump and everything that he's done, I know this may be like a weird analogy to make at this point, but I just got to thinking about flea markets. I know that's kind of funny, but I got to thinking about flea markets because they're huge here in the South. There's one literally just not far at all from my house. I've went to it my whole life. And whatever was popular in pop culture, no matter what it was, back in the 80s when I was a kid, the hair bands were huge. So you go to the flea market and there would be these booths of, Poison and Kiss and Motley Crue and all the bands that were popular back then. And I do miss the days when they focused more on the music. But then you come on up into the 90s and you had wrestling explode into pop culture, and everybody had the Austin 316 and the NWO and the Generation X shirts. And I remember walking through the flea market and seeing just one booth after another with wrestling stuff. And then, there was stuff like the Orange County Choppers and Duck Dynasty and all this different stuff has its moment of popularity. Well, eventually, no matter what becomes popular and no matter how popular it gets, eventually the sun sets on it. Eventually, it begins to die off, and it goes through a phase where no one really wants to talk about it. But if enough time passes, then one day it will suddenly become nostalgic again. And people will look back on it and go, yeah, I remember my Kiss shirts, and yeah, I remember my NWO Wolfpack shirt that I had, and they'll look back on it with some nostalgia. But with Donald Trump, I don't think that's going to happen. With Donald Trump, we saw him blow up. We saw every flea market booth be decked out in his merch. We saw all the ridiculous flags with his head on Rambo's body and on a bald eagle and all the stupid stuff that they were selling in his name. But will it ever become nostalgic? Will there ever be a time where they look back on it and go, boy, I remember when I bought that Trump Rambo flag and flew it from my truck? Will they ever remember that in a nostalgic way? Or will they just be sitting here going, damn, that's my reminder of every argument I ever had with the libtards. That's my reminder of every time I went to bat for that dude and he lied to me. And I held out hope that he was going to expose the deep state and drain the swamp. But like Joe Rogan said, the swamp had hands. He wasn't able to do it. So will he ever become nostalgic, or will he just be a painful reminder for people? He's already a painful reminder for us every day of our lives. And it sucks. It hurts. It truly does hurt people like us. But folks, can you imagine how bad it would hurt if you really went to bat for him and you really believed in it wholeheartedly? That was your thing. You believed. I mean, this would have to hurt harder than any Jonestown survivor or any Waco survivor. I mean, this one would have to sting, because we're in a social media age now where everybody's put their neck out. Everybody's got their posts out there. Everybody's got their videos out there. Everybody's got their retweets that they've shared and laughed in our face every step of the way. But now they're starting to wake up. Now they're starting to boo louder, because Trump truly has turned heel now. He's turned heel on them. And that stings worse. We always knew it was a heel. We always knew it was the villain, but they couldn't see it. Now that they see it, it's going to sting them even worse. And so I'm here for it. I'm here for the boos, and I'm here for the videos they make burning their merch, because we've been waiting for it for a long time. But folks, I I do truly appreciate all of you so much for sticking with me here on the channel. We're closing in on 800,000 subscribers. We're growing every day. And if you haven't already, be sure to check us out over on Patreon. I've got it tagged in the description of this video. A lot of times what I do, folks, I use Patreon as my place to go and talk about other things. So a lot of times over there we'll sit around and review a cigar, or we'll talk about a book I'm reading, which I'm still trying to get through this, and it's great, by the way. I've just been so busy. This book, Where the Devil Don't Stay, Traveling the South with the Drive-By Truckers, whether you know who they are or not, read this and go find their music. It's great. So we talk about stuff like that over there, and I've reviewed their albums and talked about the stuff that's on my wall behind me. So check us out over there if you get the time, and I truly do appreciate your support. And we will sit back here and we will laugh and we will enjoy it. We've been booing Trump since he came down the escalator. And no matter how long it took, it's good to see other people start to join in on those boos.